Profits is proud to be sponsored by Game of Silks. Go to silks.io to get in the game. Real ownership, real races, real rewards.
The $225,000 Debutante Stakes takes place this Sunday at Churchill Downs. It's going to go as the fourth race on the card, and it has drawn a field of 7 two-year-old fillies to go the 6 furlong distance. We're going to go ahead and take an early look at the field in this edition of the Pedigree Puzzle, with a particular focus on the pedigrees of these fillies and some of the first crop sires here with a chance to get an early season stakes winner on their resume. And we're going to start at the top with Glee. This filly was a winner on debut, going 4.5 furlongs at Lone Star Park in an open sex maiden special weight. She broke in and brushed with a rival before dueling outside of the eventual runner-up and drawing off to win by 5.5 lengths. The runner-up, Big Rossi, came back to win a Lone Star maiden special weight by 4.5 lengths in her second start. And fourth place finisher Mo Lute was a maiden special weight winner by 4 lengths at Prairie Meadows in his subsequent attempt. Border Vigil, who was last that day, finished third in his next start. So far, the class of this race seems to be holding up, although they haven't come at the premier tracks in the country. Note that Glee was on Lasix for her debut, which she will not be able to use here. I don't expect it to make a difference, but it is an unknown and something worth paying attention to. And also notable here is that 69 buyer that she earned for that win is second only to Vodka with a Twist in this field and is tied with So There She Was for the second highest. And Joel Rosario will be picking up the mount in here for Steve Asmussen. So let's take a look real quick at her pedigree. This is a really fascinating filly to me. She was a $60,000 Fasig-Tipton, Kentucky October yearling by Honor AP, whose first foals are 2-year-olds this year. Honor AP was only out of the exacta once in his 6-race career, and that was a 4th place finish in the 2020 Kentucky Derby. Honor AP broke his maiden in October of his 2-year-old season and was an impressive winner of the Santa Anita Derby in June of his 3-year-old year, notably defeating Derby winner Authentic that day. He's a son of the AP Indy Stallion Honor Code, who was a little bit of a disappointment as a sire, had a few standouts, but has now been exported to stand in Japan. However, Honor AP also has a huge female family backing him up, and he showed a lot more speed than his sire did in his races. Honor AP's dam, Hollywood Story, was a Grade 1 winner, and her first 3 dams were all also stakes winners or stakes placed. Distantly, Honor AP traces to the Myrtlewood branch of female family 13C, and this is arguably the most important sire family in the breed. Among others, Myrtlewood is responsible for horses like Mr. Prospector, Seattle Slew, Forestry, Southern Image, Quality Road, and Bolt the Oro. So this is a female family that can get you an incredible stallion prospect. Glee is out of an unraced daughter of Bluegrass Cat named Red Tabby, who is a half-sister to the Turf Stakes winner Malibu Way by First Samurai. Red Tabby is already the dam of a black-type horse that's stakes place sprinter Evolve, who is a son of the AP Indy Stallion Astrology. So we know that this cross works here. Interestingly, Bluegrass Cat is actually bred on a reverse cross to Honor Code. And by that, I mean Honor Code is by AP Indy out of a Stormcat mare, where Bluegrass Cat is by Stormcat and out of an AP Indy mare. Bluegrass Cat also brings in a really influential family, one of my favorites personally, and that's Family 1X of La Troyenne. His second dam, Get Lucky, is the tail female ancestor of 25 stakes winners, including Kentucky Derby winner Super Saver among her 7 total Grade 1 winning descendants. And perhaps even more notably, Glee herself is a member of Family 13C. There are 19 stakes winners tracing to Glee's 5th dam, including Grade 1 winners Diamond Drella, 4-Star Crook, and Life is Good. Other noteworthy stallions tracing to that mare's 4th dam, Valkyr, include Elusive Quality, Artie Schiller, and Up to the Mark. So there is definitely quality in this deeper family. And now you might be asking, why is this relevant? After all, it's a very distant connection between the most recent common ancestor of Honor AP's female line and that of Glee. And although that connection is distant, we know that since both trace to the mare Frisette, both Honor AP and Red Tabby share the same mitochondrial DNA. Mitochondrial DNA is passed directly from mother to child and remains unchanged over vast generational intervals. So then you might say it doesn't really matter because Honor AP isn't passing on his mitochondrial DNA to his offspring, and that's true. However, we also know that mitochondrial DNA interacts with nuclear DNA in ways that aren't 100% understood, but seem to affect things such as the metabolizing of energy. So, and organisms are getting that nuclear DNA from both parents. So since Honore P was such a talented individual, it's reasonable to assume that he has nuclear DNA that interacts favorably with his mitochondrial DNA. And since he's going to pass on about half of that nuclear DNA to his offspring, the theory is that he's more likely to pass on genes that work well in tandem with his own mitochondrial DNA, which Glee has gotten from Red Tabby. There's still a lot more research to be done on this topic, but it's a really fascinating lens through which to view pedigrees. And its relevance for handicapping is fairly minimal. Not every horse that's duplicating those female families is going to be an elite athlete. Not every elite racehorse is bred on this pattern. But that's a briefing on why I pay so much attention to female families, which will come up again very shortly in this video. So anyway, this line breeding to one of the strongest families in the breed makes Glee incredibly interesting to me as a prospect long term, and I think it would be very likely that she could end up being the first stakes winner for her young sire. Honore P's offspring do figure to improve with a little more age and distance. He broke his maiden going a mile, and his best race came in a 1:08. So I think the extra 3/16 of a mile in this race compared to her debut should only help Glee here. Next is Daisy Duke. She broke her maiden on May 27th in her second start, closed from 6 lengths back in that 5 furlong maiden special weight at Churchill Downs to prevail by a length and 3/4. 6 of the horses that were in behind her have run back, with 1 runner-up effort and 2 third-place efforts between them. So there were a few decent efforts out of that race, although it hasn't really produced a ton yet. Taking a look at her pedigree, this is another really interesting one to me. She was a $30,000 Keeneland September yearling by champion 2-year-old Classic Empire, a stallion that I personally think Kentucky gave up on a little bit too soon. He was always a very consistent type and has proven he can get standouts horses like Angel of Empire, although he has now been exported to stand in Korea. Daisy Duke also comes from a strong female family. Her first 4 dams are stakes winners. Her dam Dixie Strike was a stakes winner at 2 and a graded stakes winning millionaire who is the dam of a stakes winner already by Quality Road. That runner Forever Dixie was also stakes placed as a 2-year-old. So there's definitely precocity on both sides of the pedigree here. And Daisy Duke's second dam, Noble Strike, is actually the 2011 Sovereign Awards Broodmare of the Year. And in addition to Dixie Strike, she also produced stakes winner Inglorious and stakes placed runner Sebastian's Song. The cross here of Classic Empire over Dixie Union is really interesting. These 2 stallions share a female family. They both trace to the 1867 mare Maggie BB, a major member of Low Family 4M. Dixie Union himself is line bred to this family because his sire Dixieland Band is also a member of 4M. It's also interesting to me that Classic Empire has crossed very well with another member of Family 4M, that being Bernardini. And if you paid attention earlier, you might be tempted to point out that even though Classic Empire, Dixie Union, Bernardini, they all share the same mitochondrial DNA, Daisy Duke is not a member of that genetic family and thus does not share that mitochondrial haplotype. And you're right. The hope here, this is a little more of a distant connection, but the hope is that even though there isn't a direct connection, that both Classic Empire and Dixie Union, presumably possessing nuclear DNA that works well with Family 4M, are passing on nuclear DNA that's still going to work well with itself together, even if it's not interacting necessarily with the mitochondrial DNA of Daisy Duke the way it does for them. Classic Empire has 2 stakes winners and 7 starters out of mares carrying Dixie Union. So there's reason to believe that there is something beneficial going on, whether it has to do with their shared genetic family or not. Next is Fortuna Mia. She broke her maiden on May 13th at Horseshoe, Indianapolis, in winning a 4.5 furlong maiden special weight. She dueled for the lead early in that race and then drew off to win by 4 and a hand ride. 5 of her 6 rivals have run back, and none have hit the board, so that's a little bit of a concern, but she did defeat them very soundly in there. The 42 buyer she earned that win, though, is the lowest buyer recorded by any horse in the field, so she's going to need to run faster in order to win this weekend. Fortuna Mia is a daughter of the freshman sire Vekoma, who is off to a stellar start so far as a stallion. And Vekoma has all of the ingredients you want to see in a young stallion. He's a grade 1 winner at 7 furlongs and a mile. He's by Candy Ride, the sire of stallions like Gunrunner and Twirling Candy. He's out of a grade 1 winning Spites Down mare. It remains to be seen how far his offspring are going to want to go and how sound they'll remain, as he struggled with foot issues throughout his career and was absolutely distance limited. But there's every reason to believe they'll continue to prove to be very talented, especially at sprint to mile type distances. Fortuna Mia's dam Windy Lane was the last to first winner of her only start, a 7 furlong maiden special weight at Laurel Park. Fortuna Mia is her first foal, but Windy Lane is a half-sister to 2 stakes winners, so there's some class to back up that little bit of talent that she showed in her only start. And Windy Lane is a daughter of Cairo Prince, a very useful son of Pioneer of the Nile. And that cross of Candy Ride over mares carrying Pioneer of the Nile has gotten 2 stakes winners and 17 starters. So there is some precedent for success on this cross at a stakes level. Next is So There She Was. This is the lone maiden in the field, but she's absolutely not without a chance in here. She was second by 2 3/4 lengths on debut in a Santa Anita maiden special weight, going 4.5 furlongs on May 10th, but she defeated the third place finisher in there by 4.5 lengths. That runner, running on promises, has run twice since, who finished 6th in another maiden special weight at Santa Anita, and then 3rd in a maiden special weight at Pleasanton. And she is the only horse to run back out of that field since the race. And So There She Was didn't win that race. Her 69 buyer is tied with Glee for the second highest in the field, and she comes in off of a quick gate work in 47 and 3 at Santa Anita. This filly has a really interesting sale history. She sold for $145,000 as a weanling at Keeneland November, but brought only $15,000 as a yearling at Keeneland September, and then turned around and sold for $100,000 at OBS March this year. She's a daughter of the excellent Sire Munnings and out of an unraced Take Charge Indy mare. Her dam's only other starter is a winner by Connect. That horse was a $10,000 maiden claiming winner at Tampa, going 6.5 on the dirt. So I don't think the little extra distance is going to hurt here. Risk Premium, the dam of So There She Was, is a half-sister to graded stakes winner Iliad by Go Sapper and multiple graded stakes winner Melnich by Wilco, who, like Go Sapper, is another son of Awesome Again. Munnings has done quite well with mares carrying AP Indy with grade 1 winners such as Kimari and Ada, both out of mares with AP Indy blood. He's gotten over 10% stakes winners in 150 starters out of mares carrying AP Indy. So plenty of reason to think So There She Was will be a useful type of runner. Next is Adira. This filly was a winner on debut May 31st at Churchill Downs when she took a maiden special weight field gate to wire and won by 3 3/4 lengths. 3 horses in behind her have run back. The 3rd place finisher came back to finish 9th in her subsequent start. The 4th place finisher was 5th in her next try, and the last place finisher actually refused to break in her next start. So the race hasn't produced a whole lot yet, but we've only seen 3 of those 5 rivals come back. So it remains to be seen what she beat, but she absolutely did it the right way. Adira was a $300,000 yearling purchase by Authentic and out of a graded stakes placed daughter of Majestic Warrior. This filly is a 3/4 sister to grade 1 Santa Anita handicap winner Newgate and graded stakes winner Diamond Pearls, who are both by Authentic sire Into Mischief. She's the only winner in 8 starters so far for her sire, whose first crop are 2-year-olds of this year, and who has been very popular at the sales. So while he has been popular and they haven't really run off yet, it's a bit soon to hold this against a horse like Authentic. He was fast and precocious enough to win going 5.5 furlongs on debut as a 2-year-old, but he was absolutely a better horse around 2 turns, and his babies that he's been throwing really do look like 2-turn horses. So I wouldn't write off Authentic as a sire yet, although he has not necessarily come out with the same kind of success as other sons of Into Mischief in recent years, such as Maximus Mischief, have had. Adira's win at 5.5 furlongs is already the longest in the field, and I expect the extra 16th of a mile will be to her liking in here. The 6 is Vodka with a Twist. She hopped at the start in her debut on April 24th in a 4.5 furlong maiden special weight at Keeneland, tried to make a little bit of a move, but was just outkicked in the stretch. The first 2 finishers in that race have yet to run back, but 3rd place finisher What in the Literal returned to actually break her maiden in the Astoria Stakes at the Belmont Stakes Festival at Saratoga. So there was a little bit of quality, it seems like, in that race. And then Vodka with a Twist came back on May 17th at Churchill Downs, going 5 furlongs over a sloppy track. She got out to the front immediately that day and never looked back, and won by a length. And that field has come back looking pretty nice so far. The filly that was second that day, Murphy Girl, is one who I just personally think has a little bit of ability. She finished second again in her subsequent effort behind Slang, who was the 4th place finisher in the Vodka with a Twist race. Finishing 5th that day was Anna Karina, a really well-bred daughter of Bacoma, who just this week won a maiden special weight at Churchill Downs by 3 lengths. The 6th place finisher, La Cara, also finished second in her next start. And the 7th place finisher, Swiftwind, broke her maiden for a $100,000 tag in her next try. In total, the 5 horses to run back out of that May 17th race have gotten 3 wins and 2 second-place finishes in 5 starts. So I think that was a very legitimate race. In addition to that, she has the highest buyer in the field, having earned a 73 for that victory. It does seem that Vodka with a Twist was privately purchased off that win and was transferred from trainer Jason McCutcheon to the barn of Phil D'Amato, who wins at 22% the first time horse runs in his barn. She'll also be getting a jockey switch from Declan Cannon to Flavian Pratt. There is a question now, of course, of whether she can reproduce that effort that she put out in that maiden win over a dry track, but she's coming in with 2 bullet works at Keeneland since, including a bullet best of 113 on June 8th, when she went 4 furlongs in 47-2. And this is another filly in here by a freshman sire. Vodka with a Twist is a daughter of 1,000 Words and sold for a mere $2,500 as a yearling. 1,000 Words has been off to a very good start as a sire, considering he stood for just a $7,500 fee his first year at stud when these foals were conceived. The 2019 Los Alamitos Futurity winner is already the sire of 5 winners in 14 starters. 1,000 Words is a good-looking son of Paya the Near of the Nile, who we know can get a useful sire son, and he's out of the multiple graded stakes winning sprinter Pomeroy's Pistol. Though his biggest career wins all came at a mile and a 16th, it would seem that he's passing on some of the speed that's inherent in the bottom half of his pedigree. Vodka with a Twist is also the 5th foal from her dam, the Sky Mesa mare Bourbon and a Kiss, who's produced 4 other winners, though none of any particularly notable quality. Going back a little bit deeper, Vodka with a Twist's 2nd dam is a stakes winner, and her 3rd dam is Grade 1 Humana Distaff winner Mayo on the side, who also produced multiple graded stakes winner Midcourt, stakes place Tavana Dream, and the dam of Mexican champion and Triple Crown winner Kukulkan. The cross of Pioneer and the Nile over mares carrying Sky Mesa sire Pulpit has been quite productive, with 10 stakes winners and 130 starters, including Grade 1 winner Harvey's Low Goyle. This filly could definitely help boost her young sire's career by getting him a 2-year-old stakes winner in his first crop. And finally, we have La Marinara. This is the youngest runner in the field, but she's also the most experienced. She'll be making her 4th start for trainer Kelly Fernandez. She finished 2nd in her first 2 starts, both against males. First to Burning Pine, who shipped to Ascot for the Albany Stakes for Wesley Ward but failed to menace, and then to Moneyline, who was entered to run in the Bashford Manor Stakes later on Sunday's card. She then contested an auction-restricted maiden special weight at Churchill Downs on May 26th for horses that sold at RNA for $50,000 or less in their most recent auction. And she was absolutely very easily eligible for this as a $1,000 Keeneland September yearling. In that race, she vied for the lead and drew off an upper stretch. She was coming back to the field late, but still held on to win by a length and a quarter. And that race has come back pretty decently. The 2nd place finisher Strumman was already stakes placed prior in the Kentucky Juvenile Stakes, but hasn't actually raced since. 3rd place finisher Purse Thief came back to win a Churchill maiden special weight over the 5th place finisher Concrete Cruiser in 2nd. The 4th place finisher Spirit Rags was a non-factor next out. 6th place Ragtree was 2nd in a Horseshoe Indianapolis maiden special weight next out. 7th place finisher Probationer was 3rd in a Horseshoe Indy maiden special weight, and then most recently 5th in a Churchill maiden special weight. The 8th place finisher Deeply Hidden was 2nd in his next 2 attempts at Churchill, including in a race where the 9th place finisher missed the turn was 3rd, and the last place finisher coming in hot was non-competitive in his next start. So there's been a mixed bag of results out of this race, but we have seen a winner, 3 second place runners, and 2 third place runners out of the 9 horses to come out of that race and start since. So overall, it seems to have been a fairly useful group, and now she's actually going to be facing her own sex for the first time in her career. It is also notable that both of her last 2 races came over wet tracks, which her pedigree suggests she likely appreciated, so she's going to have to show that she can produce that kind of effort on a dry track. And speaking of her pedigree, La Marinara is from the first crop of Instilled Regard, whose foals have been overlooked a little bit, I think, at the sales, but he's already the sire of 3 winners from just 4 starters. Instilled Regard himself was the type of horse who showed some talent early, but got much better with age and distance. He broke his maiden in his 3rd start when trying 2 turns for the first time, then finished 2nd to McKinsey in the Cash Call Futurity to round out that season. He was winner of the Lecomte Stakes as a 3-year-old and then found success on the turf later in his career. He was 3rd in the Hollywood Derby, and then as a 4-year-old won the Fort Lauderdale Stakes, and then at 5 won the Manhattan and Fort Marcy Stakes, both on the turf. The fact that he's getting success with early season sprinters is a really positive sign for a sire like this, whose foals figure to appreciate some more distance and maturity. And though his resume may not scream a flashy sire prospect, Instilled Regard has the pedigree to be a really good sire. He's a son of Arch and out of a daughter of champion Heavenly Prize. He comes from a really deep Phipps family that includes horses such as Pure Prize, Furlough, and a horse you might have heard of called Flightline. His dam by Curlin was 4th in a turf race in her only start. She was out of multiple stakes winner Tin Top Cat, whose only other foal to race is a winner at up to the $10,000 claiming level. So it's not impossible to really imagine how this filly sold for just $1,000 as a yearling. There's not a whole lot of black type under the first 3 dams, and her sire isn't one who has had a ton of buzz around him early on. She's proving that that isn't everything, though, and based on her sire's performances as a racehorse, I think she'll appreciate the extra furlong stretching out here. This combination of Arch with Smart Strike has got some nice runners, with over 8% stakes winners and 149 starters, although it's worth noting that all of those stakes winners are by stallions who carry daughters of Arch, primarily via Uncle Mo, and not Arch's sons. However, it's still an indication that these two lines can combine favorably, and La Marinara will have an opportunity to add to that this weekend. So we've taken a look at pedigrees and past performances, so the question remains, who wins the Debutante Stakes? I don't have any super crazy opinions here. I think Vodka with a Twist and Glee have faced the best competition to date. They have the best fire speed figures in the field. They figured to appreciate a little bit extra distance. And however, the knock here is that they both broke their maidens over off tracks and need to prove that they can reproduce those efforts on a fast surface. To me, Vodka with a Twist is the one who has everything going for her in here and seems the most likely winner. Glee would be my second choice. I think she'll show some improvement second out and appreciate the extra ground. And I think that La Marinara also makes a little bit of sense, especially to use underneath at 12-1. Adira is probably the most well-bred filly of the bunch and also wouldn't surprise me in the least. I definitely get her being the morning line favorite at 5-2, but I'm not totally convinced that the field she beat in her maiden was all that. And I'm inclined, more importantly, to think that her best races are just going to be ahead of her. I usually talk quite a bit about pace in my handicapping, but I find it kind of hard to pace handicap these types of 2-year-old races. They're full of horses who won gate to wire by usually just being faster than their competition on a just talent level, and they may not necessarily go to the lead in this new context against horses of the same quality. It's always nice to see a horse who's already proven they have the maturity to pass horses, though. So if that's something you're looking for, then a horse like So There She Was definitely makes a lot of sense. And even Daisy Duke could be a little bit interesting if you are figuring that the pace might just completely collapse in here. So that is my horse-by-horse rundown of the Debutante Stakes. Please remember to subscribe to the channel for tons of other horse racing content from everyone at Trust the Profits. Good luck in all of your wagering endeavors this weekend, and as always, thank you so much for watching.